everyone, my name is Prism, and welcome back to another video. So today, guys, I am going to be reviewing the brand new James Cameron-directed Avatar: Fire and Ash. Avatar: Fire and Ash is the third film in James Cameron's Avatar saga, which started all the way back in 2009, continued with Way of Water in 2022, and is continuing again with Fire and Ash in 2025. I'd like to talk about the film in a spoiler-free context, going over my general feelings out of the movie, my general thoughts, and then go into more spoilers because there are things that I definitely want to touch on with this film. And I will say, really quickly, that if you like The Way of Water, if you like this universe of films, I think you're going to have the same opinion with Fire and Ash. If you don't like those films, I don't think you're going to like Fire and Ash. It's a lot more of kind of the same stuff from this universe, but I do want to talk more in depth and spoilers about what I mean by that, and the unique things that it does do, but overall, it is generically just another Avatar film. I wouldn't say it is the best Avatar movie, but then in some cases, maybe it is. I'm not fully sure. Really goes up between at least two of these films, which I'll talk about maybe at the end a little bit. But we're going to get started with my spoiler-free review for Avatar: Fire and Ash. And all footage that you will be seeing is from the official trailers, so all rights belong to their respective rights holders. And one more thing, I did get to see the Avengers Doomsday trailer in cinemas, the teaser. I also got a trailer for the Odyssey, which I'd not seen that teaser at all. Neither had I seen the Doomsday one, but I had heard about it. But the Odyssey trailer, I'd heard about it, but I never really kind of understood what I was reading. But the trailer definitely was interesting. And yeah, let's get into this video talking about the Avatar: Fire and Ash movie, spoiler-free, then getting into spoilers. Alright, so Avatar: Fire and Ash is, I think, probably the best of the Avatar trilogy on a visual and audio level. Avatar: Fire and Ash is definitely the longest film in the trilogy, and like Way of Water, I don't think it really has any specific moments that make me think this needs to be removed. Right? Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is a great example of this. I watched that movie, and automatically I could tell there were places where I would have cut things, or where I think you didn't need that kind of scene. And Fire and Ash isn't really like that. There are definitely edits you could make, but with the way the film is structured and comes together, the majority of it works. I may not like what they do with it, but I definitely don't think that it wastes its 3-hour runtime. I think they immerse you in the world of Pandora, I think they immerse you in the Solis family, and I think they give you a really good, engaging story that really kind of puts things up to another level. For one, this film has two antagonists. It's not just the Corporal and, all the people going after Pandora, but it's also the Ash people, another race in the world of Pandora, and they are basically a Na'vi race that is dictated by anger and by hatred and a lack of belief in Awa. This is all revealed in the trailer, so I'm not really spoiling anything, but really, they're just hateful. But having one of the villains be from Pandora definitely adds another level to it, because it makes you realize it's not just the people on Earth, but it's also the people in Pandora. Like, there are wrong people on both sides of the world, in both worlds. And I think that having two villains definitely increases the stakes. There are specific reasons it does in the plot, but overall, I do really like Fire and Ash. I do really like the Ash people in it. When I say I like them, I don't love them as characters, but I definitely like their inclusion, and I think they definitely add an element of danger, threat, intrigue. There's so much that you can do with them, and yeah. But overall, Fire and Ash, like the villains, like the music, like the visuals. What about the story? Well, I'll say this. I don't think it's right to just say that it's a copy of Way of Water, but I also don't think it's right to say that the film has no similarities to Way of Water. There definitely are things that they completely rip off of Way of Water, And while they're very satisfying when they do them, specifically one of the action beats, it definitely is a feeling of we've seen this before. Which is kind of interesting because you would think if James Cameron is leading this franchise, that wouldn't happen. Because that tends to happen when it's a reboot or something, but this is the third film in a trilogy. But I also believe that it maybe works for the story they're trying to tell, because overall, it doesn't really impact the experience. I still come out really enjoying the movie, and I still come out thinking it's a very worthwhile cinema experience. I also think the characters in this movie are really interesting. They definitely take the Soulies to darker places, they definitely make the conflict darker. They ask a lot of interesting questions. There are specific moments of dialogue or specific interactions that really are interesting and really just kind of make you think for a second. Like, if not even about the human conflict, but the conflict of the Na'vi and their situation, it's like, I never thought about it that way. Like, it's really interesting. I really like that about this film. So, like I said, music, villains, visuals, characters. I think the world they expand in a great way. I think I've kind of covered all the bases while being spoiler-free. Overall, I did really enjoy Avatar: Fire and Ash. If I had to give a part of the film the worst bit, it's going to be the third act. The third act is basically a copy of Way of Water, but it feels worse despite the stakes being higher. Right? Like, it's wanting to do what Way of Water did, but it's very much the same setup, the same action beats, the same situations, and yet I feel like the one that did it before feels better, but I also like the way this film does it. There's pieces from both that I like. I think Fire and Ash has the worst ending out of all three, I'll be honest. I didn't like the ending of this film really at all, and I'll get into why into spoilers, but overall, I did think the ending was kind of a letdown when the whole film had been a lot better. Though, I do have to say, the Ash people showing up in the movie, it does take a while for them to show up. I will warn you of that, because that's something that I was not really anticipating. The beginning was a bit of a long stretch, just kind of waiting for them to arrive and be part of the conflict. And it really takes, I think, about 30 to 20 minutes, give or take, for them to actually become part of the picture. But once you get them in the film, you definitely have moments with them, and they definitely make their presence known. But with all that said, let's get into the spoiler section for Avatar: Fire and Ash. So with Avatar: Fire and Ash, getting into spoilers, I can really talk about the things that I liked and disliked in this film. I really want to dive in more into the plot of the movie, and the characters and specific actions and decisions that are made or discussed. And I'm kind of going to start off with the beginning of the film. Loak, I believe that's his name, maybe I'm saying that wrong, the brother who was not killed at the end of Way of Water, is kind of the one who we opened this film with. He's the one that the narration starts with, and it actually gave me a feeling that they were going to kill off Jake Sully by the end of it, but we'll talk about that later. But they start the film with him, and they very much put the film in his eyes. The film is really about him trying to prove himself to his father. It's really a son story, this movie, which is kind of like Way of Water, but they're definitely trying to pull on some different emotions, and they're definitely trying to go deeper with it. Because the whole movie is really Loak's journey to kind of be what his father wants him to be. And yes, we did this in Way of Water. And yes, it gets very noticeable very quickly. Oh, he's disobeying. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's doing that. Didn't you learn your lesson last time? Because last time you did this, your brother was killed. Like, there's a point of stupidity where it feels like, oh, he got them in trouble. That was a bad idea. Let's not do that again. But he does it again. So thinking about it a bit more does make me a bit more upset with the plot. But I did like that they're trying to put the story in his perspective, and that they're trying to make it a real continuation, where they're like, this is a loss the family has had. How's that going to affect all the characters? And also you have Spider in this film, or the human, that basically is the son of the corporal. he basically is part of the Sully family now, right? The whole son for a son thing. He's really kind of taking over that position of having two brothers. And this film, he gets to shine a lot more. This film definitely tries to make him more of a part of the story. Um, the beginning of the film starts off with the conflict of he is going to die because he can't breathe the air of Pandora, and so they go on this whole mission, and then the Ash people attack while they're on their mission. And so him and the kids are lost in the forest, and I forget her name, I think it's Katie, basically does a prayer to the ancestors and uses her magic to basically save him from dying. She's able to save him somehow by making him able to breathe the air of Pandora with the help of Awa. And if this sounds weird, yeah, it kind of is. The way it's done is... It's not bad, it's just I didn't expect it to go that way, and it kind of feels like they're trying to solve a problem that they created really quickly. It feels like the whole conflict of him not being able to breathe air was literally just an excuse to have a script, when you could have easily just said, oh, the Ash people come for them or something, but no, they have to go on an adventure. They want their action scene, so that I didn't really feel for. But during this whole thing, you know, the kids getting separated, the parents getting separated, Neytiri's injured. Specifically, there's a moment, you know, later on, after the conflict, the first conflict, where Loak basically is wanting to protect the whales. Again, yes, we're going through the same plot beats. He's wanting to protect them, and there's a exchange between him and Jake Sully, which is really powerful, where his father blames him for the death of his brother. Is that true? Is that not true? Yes, from a historical perspective of looking at the facts, yes, it is his fault, but it's really a shocking moment because you wouldn't think that was going to happen. That's not a way you would want to be treated. If you made a mistake, you wouldn't want your father to blame you that someone in your family died. Like, it's a very dark moment. And after this, they follow it up with a scene where he's about to kill himself with the Sky People's weapon. And I full-on did not know what they were going to do with it. For a minute. It got very dark. It got very... Like, in all honesty, it got really emotional, and I really liked that the film was willing to go that way, but as I continue stating, I think the film needed to go further with these darker themes and ideas. I think it needed to go deeper with its character analyzation and study. I think the way this is resolved doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, oh... So Sully's only proud and loving of his son when, you know, he actually does something to make him proud? What specifically made him, like, proud of him? And, you know, they mention it, but, like, I don't fully get it. And then another thing, too, is, like, Jake never said sorry from what I can remember. So I do like this whole element of, like, there's this, you know, relationship struggle. The family's, you know, kind of coming apart a little bit. But I do think there needs to be more in there. And then you have the whole thing, too, of Katie, who in the last film had a seizure when she touched the strands in the water. And in this film, she tries to do the same thing and almost dies. And it's found out that she has no biological mother. She is an exact clone of Sigourney Weaver's character. Which I guess explains how they had the same actress. But... that's really interesting. Only issue with this is it barely matters to the plot. It really doesn't matter. And I'll talk about this once again when we get to the third act. You can see how many issues are going to pile up when we get to the third act. But meanwhile, the Corporal and the Ash people, he basically makes a deal. He's like, hey, I know you want to kill them. I know you want our guns. You help me find Spider, and you can have our weapons. And it kind of becomes this whole, here's some Pandora people, you know, betraying the Sullys, and it's going to be this bigger war conflict. It's a lot bigger than the last film. It is a lot bigger of a climax, and we'll talk about that at the end. But it's a really big ending. It's a really big setup. It's building up for something really great. It's building up for something really, big and epic. That kind of feels like the third film in a trilogy, if not the conclusion. And we'll talk about, is this a conclusion at the end? But, they kind of do that. They do this whole thing with the Ash people, Vaughn, the leader of them, joining with the Corporal. They team up together, and that's, going to be a conflict, obviously. Meanwhile, we also have the subplot of Spider being used by the government, right? The government wants to use him because somehow he's able to breathe the air on Pandora. And that creates a real conflict. So, actually, it does turn out that this issue at the beginning of the film, Katie saving him, creates a bigger issue for the world of Pandora. And it does ask the question of, should Spider live? Because in the last film, Neytiri wanted to kill him. And this film, she's gone from wanting to thinking of him as a child, but Jake Sully is the one who has to be convinced this isn't the right way. He believes it is because it's going to protect his family and they're going to stop coming after him. And what if all the Sky people get the ability to breathe on Pandora? But then they have the scene where, it's Spider and Jake in the forest, and he's about to do it, and he doesn't. And it's really hard. But it's kind of like this reminder that family is more important, right? Like, everyone is family to them. All these people that have helped them have become part of their family. It isn't just about the Na'vi who are part of the family, but it's about, all of them. And, even before this, we have a scene with Neytiri where she's almost becoming like the Vaughn, the villains, which are all hateful and angry and just trying to, kill everyone, don't believe in Awa. She gets into an angry state. She's like, I want to kill all the Sky people. We should get rid of Spider. We should, because he's not one of us. I want to kill all the Sky people. And Jake's like, but do you hate me? Do you hate your children, who are both of us? Do you hate me because I may look like a Na'vi, but in my body I'm still, I'm still human? And it really is interesting. And then later on, when Sully's about to kill Spider, Neytiri has to remind him, it's almost a retrospective kind of thing, where it's like the lesson he taught is being taught back. It's like the master becomes the student. And yeah, it's really interesting. I really like, what they did with it. I really thought that was interesting. That was kind of powerful. It's kind of showing, this whole message of family is so much bigger than just the same blood. It's, I don't know how to say it with family, but I'll say it like this. I think it's a really powerful thing that they did. I really liked that part of the story, kind of dealing with the conflict of, oh, wait, but these are Sky people, but we're Sky people, and I think kind of addressing that, not just saying, hey, we're all Na'vi, so everything's fine. No, they're saying, we're Sky people, we may look like Na'vi, we may be half-breeds that are partly Na'vi, but we're also Sky people. And not all Sky people are bad. Like the film later on goes to say that, there's great Na'vi and there's bad Na'vi. There's the Fire Clan and there's the Water Clan and there's the Forest Clan and the Wind Clan, and the Fire Clan just choose to be hateful. I think that's a really interesting discussion because it shows that not everyone's the same. Not everyone on each world is, always positive or always the right influence. I really like that they're doing that with this film. And it's really trying to make the conflict less of a one side good, one side bad. It's more of a, well, there can be people on every side, and there's different reasons people do things. Why do the Ash people not believe in Awa? Well, because this tragedy happened to them. And I think that's a really interesting question, too. It kind of relates to real faith, where people will be like, oh, but God wasn't there for me in this moment, so I don't believe. And obviously, other people will say, well, that's not how it works. That kind of thing. It brings up interesting questions on a psychological level. Religiously, it brings up some interesting questions. And I think just on a human level, right? Like, you can be born into a society of terrible people. You can be the son of a terrible person, but you can still be better than that. And I think that's what Fire and Ash is trying to advocate for. And I really like the conversation that Jake has with Neytiri, because it's a slower scene. It's, there is some agitation in it, but really everything he's saying to Neytiri is right. Like, all their children are half-breeds. He is a sky person inside. Like, it's really interesting. And I did really like that. I think another thing, too, was, the overall conflict of, Katie trying to connect with Awa. Awa is, their god, their higher power, the one they believe in on Pandora. And the whole film is basically her trying to connect with Awa, but she's not been able to. She thinks that maybe her mother, or maybe Awa doesn't want her, but really it's that it's not her time for this. So that's interesting too. Like, oh, you couldn't help in the way you would think, but when your time comes, you can. Like, it's really interesting what they're trying to do with this film. There's some really interesting things in it. And there's a beautiful sequence near the end of the film where she goes to speak with Awa, and she can't do it on her own, but then her siblings join in. Spider, you have, I forget the little girl's name. You have her join in. You have Loak join in. It becomes this full, like, Sully Kid family thing of them all helping her persevere and push through. And it's beautifully visualized with all the branches and the purple colors. It's really beautiful. It's a really amazing sequence. I love the sequence. Like, it's so cool. And, there's some other things that happen in the plot, too. Like, Jake Sully gets kidnapped. So we play the whole card of him actually giving up his freedom to go and be a part of the Sky People's shenanigans for his family's safety. And I think that's really interesting, because they argue that's going to happen in the last film, and this film they do it, and you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you don't expect that they're actually going to keep him the whole movie, but is he going to die, or are they actually going to stop and the rest are going to have to go fight them? Like, you don't fully know what's going to happen, even if you kind of do. It's interesting. I really like, too, that, Neytiri gets a bigger role in this film. She's injured at the beginning from the Ash people fight. But over the course of the film, you get to the moment where she has to go and save her husband. And so when she finally uses her bow and arrow, it's so satisfying. Because you've been here for about an hour and 50 minutes, however long it's been. And finally you're getting the payoff to all the struggle, to all of this that's been going on. She gets to be the hero for him again. And I do really like that. That yes, it's, Spider, or it's one of the Sky people who initially saves him. But it's really Neytiri who saves him at the end of the story. At this portion. And it's here where I want to talk about the film's length. Because after I finished seeing Fire and Ash, I went to bed after playing with some friends online. And then this morning, I got in a conversation with someone about the movie. And they made a really big, claim. You could have cut off Fire and Ash after Jake Sully being saved. And the unfortunate truth is, they aren't wrong. You could have easily split Fire and Ash into a 2-part finale, and I think it would have been a lot better for it. Because we build up to this moment of the villains winning, and then they lose Jake Sully, he's freed, and then we have to find out how they're going to go and attack them. And that's kind of where all the problems start. There's been a lot of character stuff, there's been a lot of kind of setting up ideas and things, but now is really the last hour or so of the film, and you just kind of have to see where things going to go, and unfortunately the film's ending kind of falls apart. I think for, starters, I really did like the moment with Katie pushing through all the purple roots and just being able to go speak to Awa with the help of her family. I liked Loak getting the animals to join together, even though it is definitely repeating the Way of Water. But I didn't like the final battle. The final battle is way too big, because they're trying to separate the family. They're trying to not cause any more lives lost. They're trying to do something bigger than the last film. But the battle ends up feeling really anticlimactic because it's all set up, it's all fighting, it's all flying around. You have certain moments in there, like when Vaughn, the leader of the Ash people, basically is about to kill their mother, Neytiri, and Katie comes and basically is like, no, you're not. And, this really powerful scene where it's like, the villain gets what she deserves. Like, it's very much a karma scene, but they don't even kill her off. They have her run away, they have her fly away. Presumably, I guess, so they can use her in another film. But then you have the final battle with Jake Sully and the Corporal, and they're fighting, and it's Spider, and it's Jake, and it's the Corporal, and they're all fighting, and then it gets to a moment where the Corporal and his son fall off the ledge. Jake pulls him back up because he doesn't want Spider to die, or because he trusts in people, and thinks that people can make a choice. And the Colonel, Corporal, I don't know what you call him, he basically is like, okay, I'm going to jump off the edge. I expected him to try and shoot someone, or Neytiri to shoot him, but he just jumps off. And that's really unsatisfying. They make it look like he could have died, but once again, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this kind of story where it's just very much open-ended? He could come back, it could be the last one, or it could not be the last one. I think another thing, too, is, like, the ending of this film, I think, is the worst out of all three. Most of them, you have the Avatar face after the monologue, but this film, it ends with Spider and him being accepted by Eywa and the whole family together on the, branches where they're able to talk to Eywa, and it just feels off. I didn't like this ending. Can I also just talk about how there aren't enough deaths in this movie? And I don't want that to sound really morbid, but there are multiple instances and multiple characters that are put in death situations that they pull out of, that they don't go forward with, and I don't understand why. I feel like the biggest way to get a gut punch of an emotion, or just to really show the cost of this war, is to kill off one of these characters that we've been with. And I know they don't want to repeat the Way of Water, but I think if you had killed off Jake or Neytiri, it would have really meant something. But it really feels like this film is really cheap with what it tries to do. It really puts you in an emotional situation, and then it doesn't. It's like, okay, yep, we're not doing that. You understand why they're not doing that, but it's like, I don't know. What I honestly expected at the beginning when Loak is narrating the film, I expected him to be the leader of the Solis at the end. I thought they were setting it all up that Jake was going to die fighting the Sky People in the final duel, and I thought he was going to be dead, and I thought they were going to move on the franchise with the brother and, the rest of the family. But no, they don't. Really, I have to ask, where are we that we weren't before? Where are we that we weren't, years ago? Because it's the same villain, it's the same premise, it's the same conflict. Yes, they add new things, but I really do think that Avatar Fire and Ash should have been conclusive. And I do actually think that it could have worked as a big two-part epic. If you wanted this to be like The Hunger Games or Wicked, you could have made this a two-part film, have the film end with the Solis back together, and then just have part two literally be the war movie. Just be building up to the final conflict. Do something more original than the whales and trying to save them and whatever. But as Avatar Fire and Ash is right now, I don't think it's the best film of the trilogy. I don't think it's, going to be my favorite film. It's really going to go between this one and the other two. I'm not sure which one's my favorite yet. But I do think that Avatar Fire and Ash really loses it in the finale. And it really does kind of show that this franchise needs to go in a new direction. Even the villain. Like, they set her up as being able to see souls or whatever, but they barely do anything with that. They barely do anything with it. Everything's kind of a setup, and there's never a real payoff. And that's the most frustrating part about Fire and Ash. The first two films, you feel like they complete something, and you feel like there's a true full story there, and you feel like things pay off enough. This film feels like it was trying to pay things off and also set up new things, and it didn't do either of them well. But that is my thoughts on Avatar: Fire and Ash. I'd love to hear your guys in the comments down below, and I hope you all enjoyed this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Have a Merry Christmas, and goodbye for now.